Hey, Duvid here. We are live in Detroit at the Automate 2025 conference. So I'm using StreamYards here. Um, I was busy with chess yesterday, so I missed the first day. Anyone in Metro Detroit, Huntington Place, Monday, yesterday through Thursday, is the International Automation Conference. Robotics manufacturer, AI, sister parallel businesses all over. It is massive, people from all over the world, and the latest display of automation technology, including AI, machine learning. So, like the additive manufacturing TCT uh, conference that I streamed like a month ago, I'm going to this cold, meaning I didn't prepare. I was busy with other things, so I didn't have time to read or look at who was going to be here. Although I did go to the automation conference like 2 years ago when I came twice, and just seeing how massive this is, I will probably come tomorrow and Thursday also. And myself try to collect my attention right now. But you know, as anyone who hope I have good reception. One person, the chat. If there's someone watching, the audio sound is good. But I used to have a interview entry focused on chatbots and was using like ChatGPT or the channel AI explain Yank. There's most of this is on chat, and then others about AGI, which would be um, automated general intelligence, would be more that like hard drive or power behind it, but with some sort of for having things like human, as opposed to church entropy didn't seem to understand what I was saying. She never came to a conference like this. But actually, the biggest, most important factor of AI machine learning is robotics in manufacturing. It just happens to be that your average person is not involved in the manufacturing process um, to know how their stuff is made. But if you know how your stuff is made, and if you've been to a factory floor, if you're an engineer or designer, the changes in technology over the last uh, little while are incredible. So right now I'm just walking around. I'm rambling, kind of stream of consciousness. I got a lot on my mind, so it's very difficult for me to focus on just what's in front of me. And I said I haven't read the reading material, but because this is so massive, I will almost certainly be back here tomorrow and the next day. Yeah, Machine Lies. Oh, God bless. Yeah, if you're in Michigan, check out this conference's Machine Lies. We haven't talked in a while, but um, if you're in the Michigan area, Detroit area, come down to this conference. And so we've spoken about various things. God forbid the. Hey, God bless. Yeah, thank you. Streaming, I'm live. Okay, so Machine Lives. We talked about technology and society, and like God forbid the Unabomber, and the names of those scholars are not coming to the top of my mind right now because I got so many things going through my mind. But I would say, and you also talk about the use of AI for things like security, social credit system. These are the things that your average person is going to notice, like when automation, talking to the phone, computer, chatbots, maybe people in school trying to write exams or have their math questions answered. Yet the advanced level, people doing research and like trying to have mathematics or science problems that have never been solved before using AI that your average person doesn't know about, maybe even less than this. So um, But this is niche. People don't really care how their things are made. But like relative to the world economy, the most important factor about AI is manufacturing. Just like, oh, where are all the jobs? Where are the good jobs? How come you got to learn STEM technology, coding, and even the nature of coding, where um, because now you have AI that does coding to a certain extent, instead of helping people find jobs, it actually lets the best coders take the jobs of the lesser coders. Because it used to be the best coders could only you're the only one person; they could only do so much, so you still had plenty of jobs. But now superior coder knows how to use the AI functions to generate opening up a company and hiring a bunch of coders. You don't necessarily need to open up a company and have coders. You can just automate that, and then and in engineering is PLC program, like machines. If you get it, but this is operated by software and almost exclusively by um, just logical circuits, electrical signal. You have what's called a programmable logical circuit, which could direct the machine on, so to say, move left, move right, do this, do that, but in a non-coded fashion. So the AI is usually in addition, because like the the machines operate based on electrical signals, and it's either pneumatic or electric. And pneumatic meaning air pressure. But like any of these machines, sometimes they're covered up on the displays. They're going to have these electrical signals, and that's what controls the pneumatic devices. Pneumatics is usually more used than electric. That air, and I'll have to refresh and do some reading to remember why pneumatics performs better than electric. But if you look, almost all of these are pneumatically operated, and that is by an electric signal. And you don't really need code. If it's a repetitive manufacturing cycle where all it does is repeat the same thing over and over again, um, you don't need code. You could just have electrical signals that fire at a timed way and are calibrated, that the electrical signal causes the machine, like if you have your rotation, your 7 axes of if you start looking at the robotic machines, they have multiple axes. It could be one axis, or each axis that it spins on, and all that is an electrical signal that causes air pressure to go, that turns the device and will calibrate it to spin or move an exact amount. And previous conferences, I'm still kind of wandering around, gathering my thoughts, trying to remember, because I didn't prepare for this conference. I'm just remembering things that I've studied in the past or keep up with. Um, but so historically, you've had robotics for a while, and so that you could have had manufacturing with robotics, maybe even going back 100 years, but certainly like 50 years, 75 years. And so it's just a pulse of electric signal that goes for a certain amount of time, and that causes the robot to move in a certain direction for a certain amount of time. And so you have to calibrate and make those calculations on your own, program the robot, and then the robot will repetitively do that as long as it's operated to, or you get multiple calibrations. So the reason why AI, machine learning is so important for automation is because, like AGI, um, automated general intelligence, the machines lack. They can just do the same thing again and again. So most operations are very difficult to make precisely. I mean, so automotive, most manufacturing for years on supply lines was in fact in a way where there was no intelligence, and it's just the machine that performs repetitively. And so like already for like 75 years, um, machines have been replacing people, but it means that there's less and less people needed. So if you had a repetitive machine, you still might need a person watching over a machine or the 4 or 5 machines. Um, NJ, yeah, thanks for tuning in. If anyone's in the chat, just give me a thumbs up that the audio and video is working. There's one place where I'm losing because that's probably one of their spots where they're zapping it in. But yeah, the automation in order for some sort of general intelligence. Let's just say most common water probably reading material where and we're telling you like move this many direction and exert this many pounds of pressure. That's not intelligence. That's AGI. That's not even intelligence at all. What is intelligent is the robot to do something in a generalized fashion, like pick up a bunch of pieces and pile them. So a lot of times, like just like stacking boxes or something like that, you have the exact like uh, uh, sorry, words are in my mind, but you know, like, that moves the objects one does the same function. You really have a human that moves the piece or a conveyor belt. That was what I meant. I mean, when I was 17 years old, I worked to just picking an object, saying like you don't know exactly to figure out. That was the first level of machine learning. So now, if you could combine that with chatbots, like at the end of the day, you need the machine learning aspect. So you're looking, how do you inform a machine what you want to do? So first, you have to inform the machine. Eventually, it has to go into machine language, which is going to be Boolean circuit logic. And so like when you write code, after you're done with the code, no matter what, unless you're using machine language itself, but whatever C, basic C, Visual C, whatever code you're using, then you compile it, and the code is compiled into machine language, which basically just means Boolean circuit logic, zeros and ones in electrical circuits. And I mean, there's some humans that understand machine language and some, but basically no one programs directly in machine language. So, you're looking at that like so even like ChatGPT, any machine, it's going to come down to electrical signals, Boolean logic, circuit logic, and that's how the machine understands things. Even chatbots. So if you're thinking, well, what does it mean to tell the machine you want it to assemble something? So at the end of the day, the machine only understands machine logic, electrical signals, and circuit logic. Which I took those courses, and anyone listening familiar with circuit logic, yeah, I think there's just one place in the center where they probably have their like media center where I lose reception when I walk by. So the various software packages that will I'm not an expert enough to know the layering, but if you think like chess and it's basically like chess and Kotov, candidate moves and analysis trees, because like circuit logic. So to some extent, any AGI could be reduced to candidate moves and analysis trees, because that's basically like circuit logic. You have different options, and once the option is fixed, then um, if I find something interesting, I'll probably record here tomorrow because I'm a little overwhelmed and I got a lot of other things on my mind. So I just figured I'd pop on the stream. People could see, share some thoughts, and then I'm going to pick up a whole bunch of reading material, and I'm going to come back tomorrow and stream again when I have my thoughts more together. So I'm just doing general ramblings to put in perspective the current situation in manufacture. Um, but so you have the software companies that connect to the PLC programmable logic circuits that control the robotics, and these are basically iterative algorithms. Like ChatGPT, or you think like Alpha Zero, like chess or games. The computer, um, you could try to understand like the iterative algorithm of how computer software operates. And so, what does AI mean? It could be a misnomer, except the hard problem of consciousness. So maybe I'll put this back on to say, why is it so difficult to explain? Because, what is automated general intelligence mean? And we don't even really know what general intelligence means in terms of like human intelligence. So how does the human mind operate or make general decisions? That's like, okay, that's why I'm coaching chess. I'm mentioning things like Kotov analysis trees, candidate moves, because we don't really know how the human mind operates. The hard problem of consciousness, predictive mind, active inference, Carl Friston, and all these other things. Like if I had more time, I'll return to talking about. Um, but to think like we actually understand how these work better than our own minds, because largely we program the computer. However, with the new advances in machine learning, and so if you think about chess and how the computer got better than chess, at humans than chess, we don't really understand that well how the human mind thinks about chess. There's a whole bunch of theories. There's some evidence. Most of them are psychometric, or like cognitive architectures, where they're computer programs that will simulate how we think the mind might work, or just like logical, like that makes sense, like it matches with my introspection or experience. So when you first had chess computers, um, you had like a value function, like a utility function to rate moves. Like if you could solve the game and you have a goal directed for the game and it could calculate all the options, but for chess, because you can't calculate all the options, the best you could do is a utility function that's going to give a number between 0, 1, or a centipawn or something like that, that is going to um, determine what move the computer is going to make. It's going to make the move that has the highest utility value function. But how does it get this utility value function? So in reality, it's basically like Newton's method for solving math problems, like the three-body problem, or differential equations for celestial movement. Why it was by the Ptolemaic model was still widely used, still like ground plots, because even Newtonian mechanics was not producing better results than the Ptolemaic model, um, because you can't actually solve most differential equations. You have to use like something like Newton's method, Runge-Kutta, and basically an iterative algorithm that keeps on getting repeated, and we'll get a closer and closer answer without solving it. So in terms of like a chess computer, it's like we don't really know what the computer is, so to say, thinking. We know the algorithm that's iterating, and we know the value that the algorithm it iterates returns. And sometimes like get a printout of the analysis of the process, but it's very hard to interpret or maybe near impossible. So all you could really know, it's like if you're looking to solve a differential equation that can't be reduced to an algebraic expression, you have to use one of the approximation methods, and the more you iterate it, the closer you get. So like in the time of Newton, even the most brilliant minds like Euler, um, if they sat down with a pen and pencil, maybe they like once or twice they iterated a few hundred or a few thousand times, but generally you're only going to iterate it a handful of times. As where the computer could iterate one of these algorithms millions of times and get extremely close approximation of an actual value. So you're like staring inside the mind of a computer is actually easier than staring into the mind of a human because we know the exact algorithm that's being iterated in the computer, as where we don't actually know whether there's an algorithm at all being iterated within the human mind. And people might introspect and think that's how the mind's working, but whether the mind, like predictive processing, and there's some sort of algorithm, like the perceptron project or neural nets, was originally about humans, that they thought how we understand Boolean logic and electrical circuits actually for computers was first speculated that that's how the brain worked in like the 1950s. The perceptron project I've talked about in Week in Review, the birth of um, molecular biology, and the Rockefeller Foundation, Shannon and Weaver, and we'll see. Maybe now the school year is ending up, I'll start returning to Week in Review, and for my own sake, my own mind. But I'll just start going over these concepts again. But so in relation to robotics and computers, at the end of the day, all AGI is an iterated algorithm. And sometimes you could have multiple algorithms that iterate in a certain way, like not just one algorithm that iterates again and again, but you could have a series of algorithms that will call each other, and you iterate one, and it could be a little bit complicated, and I'm not going to be able to explain it without the visuals or walking around. I have all the stuff flying through my mind. um, but saying like, well, all it is, like, the reality is, like, Carl Friston, predictive processing, most models of consciousness say, well, that's all the human mind does either. In fact, the human mind, think like chess, um, the human mind is relatively pretty pathetic. Like, okay, like I was just at the national chess tournament, and you're saying the best minds in the country um, are no competition to a simple computer, because most experts think that all the human mind does is iterate algorithms, predictive processing, and these computers are more efficiently wired, have more power, and could iterate these algorithms. Um, so you could say, like, okay, if you had gave me a pen and pencil and asked me to solve an extremely difficult differential equation problem, that the best I could do is use one of these calculation methods, estimation methods, and iterate it a handful of times. Um, as where the computer could iterate it, really infinite times. I mean, not infinite, but as much processing computer power as you're able to give it. Um, but it's saying actually that's how most people think that the human mind works, and relatively it's because we know more about how the computer works than the human mind works. So it's easier to just guess, argue like spirituality and dualism, because like, okay, I don't think the human mind operates like this at all. I think the human mind doesn't operate in the physical realm. Or you could have a monistic spiritual interpretation that AGI computer thinking is not actually happening in the computer, that's actually also happening in a non-physical realm. So it's saying even logical circuits, computer circuits that are producing some form of intelligence, that, so to say, like the computer has a mind, a non-material mind or soul. And maybe Machine Lies, I'm not sure if you're still listening, but if you're streaming tonight and want to talk about this, we could talk about this, or if you come down to this conference tomorrow or the next day, or have thoughts. But you could take a spiritual position that also, like a dualistic that this computer also has a non-material. I wouldn't call it a soul, but I mean a soul is just a Latin word. But that even this computer, in its thought process, that's not actually happening in the material realm. You could have a monistic or dualistic interpretation. The um, so how are we relating this to robotics and iterative algorithm and trying to, like, you can't tell a robot a PCL circuit like build a car. It has to be more specific. And but let's say you had a separate software, like a multi-physics platform that had a model of a car, every piece. Like if you said, like, build me a human, okay, you don't have the material to build a human body. But if you like build me a microwave, build me a toaster, build me obviously the automobile, or bus, have the manual mode, most devices that the half of global manufacturing has just automotive. Um, Now you could have a computer model of an automobile. You could have the exact specification of every material, every operation in the automobile, and that's modeled in the computer. And then you could use AGI to multi-physical form to try to make it more efficient. Based on human-based building concepts, use them to verify that it works, and then use some sort of machine learning AI device to make more efficient the to make more efficient the um, the of device you want to build. Once you have that full picture of what you want to do, tell the computer to make for you. Obviously, you need automated equipment, you need arms, bills, and me use you could use, but and and so once you have it, software gets better data for optimization. Have the middle, your head, your computer. So it, I, an interruption. Uh, machine learning, design, factor, Okay. Yeah, I lost reception. I'm going to end the stream. Okay. I'm sorry about this. I'm going to be back. If Machine Lies, you see this, maybe I'll reach out. We can talk about this tonight, or if you make it down. I'm going to end the stream because I'm having reception problems. I'm just going to gather some reading material like I usually do. And once I gather the reading material, hopefully I'll look through quite a bit, and I'll have more intelligent things, and I'll have a better understanding of where things are laid out in you here to get film. And anyone in Metro Detroit, the expo part of this is free. There's also more like speeches and education and networking, and you can actually meet the chief um, CEOs or people in charge of research and development or different things. A lot of them give seminars. You could meet them, but I think you got to pay for that part. But just to walk around the expo center, collect reading material, or see on display the latest devices, that's free and available to anybody in the metro area. And like I said, this is international, so people from all over the world, and often I talk about the implications of the global trade, the global supply chain. But I'm going to sign off and hope to be back tomorrow. So God bless.